we've talked a little bit about money here or there, cash flow, that sort of thing. Money is everything to a business. It's the lifeblood, and a key component of managing a business, managing money, is projecting revenue. So that's what we're going to talk about right now. Randy, you guys are pretty thoughtful about projecting revenue. Why is it important to a business as a whole?
Yeah. Well, I think first of all, we're going to talk about projecting revenue because it's important, but I don't want it to foreshadow profitability, which we talked about before. But I do think one thing that the industry does on a consistent basis is talk about how much revenue we do. Like, oh, we're a $100 million company. Well, good for you. But
doesn't mean a whole lot.
You're not making money, it doesn't mean a whole lot.
Yeah.
It does mean that you're big,
but
we need to, as an industry, although focus on revenue, remember that profitability is more important, but we have to manage revenue, right? Our budgets are based off revenue. The size of our company, the amount of people we have, that's all based off revenue. So revenue, I feel like oftentimes we're more thoughtful in estimating a project than we are estimating the business, right? We need to be estimating what's revenue going to be. What does that look like? Well, it depends on the size of your business. It changes. If you're doing large project that lasts a year plus on a consistent basis, you probably have a pretty good chance to project revenue out 12 months. Is it going to be perfect? No, but it should be able to be an estimate. You should be able to get with your project teams and say, hey, we have these 10 projects. These are their schedules. Based off their schedules, roughly how much will we be billing? And then sum that all up and put it into a spreadsheet and say, all right, every month this is roughly what we're going to bill. The reason that's important is usually you can establish metrics based off of projecting revenue. If you're a smaller company, that might be a little bit more difficult. Like for us, we felt like since our projects were more mid-size, it was easier for us to project 3 to 6 months out pretty accurately. And so that's what we focused on. Hey, that 3 to 6 month window is where we want to be projecting out revenue, trying to target an accurate one at the 4 to 5 month mark. Same thing. Hey, what projects do we have? What should we complete based off the schedules we've created? How much should we bill? And monthly we review those projections, and then we compare revenue back to those projections. So we have a meeting that's all about what's upcoming work, what backlog do we have, and based off the upcoming work and our current backlog, what do we project over that next 5 to 6 months? And then one of the metrics we've created is how many people, we went back and looked historically, what was our employee count and what was our revenue? And so we said, hey, every month we had this many employees and we did this much revenue, and we divided it out. We looked at all the data and we said, hey, there's a consistent range here between this dollar amount and this dollar amount is where we're billing, right? And then we said, well, let's look at now, are we profitable in certain scenarios? So if we're billing more per employee, are we more profitable? You'd say, yeah, you are for sure, but you never know. So let's look into it. So we started seeing, oh yeah, we usually are profitable when we hit this mark. For the sake of this conversation, when we're billing $25,000 per employee per month, that's usually when we move into profitability. So between $25,000 per employee per month and $35,000 per employee per month is our range of where we want to be billing and an employee count.
And just for the sake of clarification, that range works for your business.
Yes.
So it'll be different for every business.
Correct. Like if you do more pipe, maybe you have more material, maybe the number's bigger. Or if you do more structures, maybe there's more concrete and rebar, maybe that number's bigger. Maybe you do more striping, maybe the number's smaller. Like you're gonna have to evaluate your own data. But for the sake of this, just now that we have this number and we say, hey, we need to bill around 25 to 35,000 to be profitable, and then we take that same number and we start looking at projections, we're now able to say, hey, next month we think we're going to bill $2 million in revenue, and we need at least $25,000 per employee to be profitable. We're going to be more profitable if we're billing at $35,000 per employee. We divide that into it, and it gives us a band of what our employee range should be. And people are like, well, you're just trying to limit employees. No, what we actually see is it helps us forecast when we need employees, which helps with the hiring process. It's not, hey, we got a big job, we need people. It's 3 months from now, this job is going to bill $1 million. We're going to bill $3.5 million in that month. So top being at 35,000 would say we need about 100 employees in that month to whatever 25,000 goes into 3.5 million, more than 100 employees. And it gives kind of our operations teams an idea, hey, currently our employee count's 85. In that month, we're gonna probably need between 100 and this. They can be proactive. They can go out and say, hey, let's do some social media posts. Let's get some traffic coming to our website for the positions we're gonna need to fill. Let's make sure if there's any projects that are kind of just need to be closed out, that we put some effort and get them closed out so we can free up some employees to get to be able to bill to this month. So forecasting revenue is not just about what's the number going to be, but it's how you plan for the people. And when you're able to plan, just like on a project, planning a project makes you successful. Planning the business makes you successful. The other thing it does is it allows you to say, hey, based off of our current workload and what we know that's coming up, we have a pretty good idea what we're going to build this year. Once again, if you're small, that's a little bit harder, right? If you're digging pools and basements, to know how many pools and basements I'm going to dig next year, for sure, is hard.
It's hard, but you can at least make a guess.
You can estimate, right? Hey, we know that with our current crew size, we can dig 5 a month. And we're having a lot of people ask, so we think we can consistently do 5 a month, and we're going to make sure our estimators know that's our goal, and we're all going to fight to get to 5 pools a month. And that gives you a projection of revenue. Now you know, hey, next year I'm going to do about this much in revenue. Well, what else does that allow you to do? We talked about determining overhead costs. Once you know what your revenue is going to be, you can start figuring out what is my cost in the office going to be, all those expenses that aren't related to the job. What's that cost going to be related to that revenue? And now I have an overhead percentage that you can apply to the projects you bid. So understanding and forecasting revenue is how you work on the business. And because there's not always clarity, I see the smaller businesses for sure, including ours when we were smaller, not thinking it was that important. Like, let's just go get the work we can get. Well, no wonder all of a sudden you need 100 people and you can't get them because you just went and got all the work you could get. You weren't being thoughtful and methodical, and you weren't planning for, hey, what does it mean if we win a project that's $2 million and last year we only did $2 million in revenue? Like, oh, that means we need twice as many people. Crap, how hard was it to hire up our first 20 people to get to $2 million? That was really hard. And we're gonna hire 20 more this year. Well, would it be surprising if you got a lot of people who weren't good? Would it be surprising if that project didn't go well? Probably not, because you didn't get to train people. We weren't able to be thoughtful and say, hey, we did win this job, but when we were thinking about this 3 months ago, we planned on winning this job. So we told all of our people, hey, anybody you know that's any good, this project's coming, let everybody know. Hey, operations manager, any day we're slow, I want to get our people in here, and we need to start doing extra training, because we're going to need to make sure they know that although you're a dozer operator, you're now a dozer operator and a trainer, because we're going to have the new guys in seats, and we're going to need more people looking out for the company. Is that job still going to be hard? Yeah, you just doubled your revenue. But at least you had time to plan for it. At least you were able to be proactive in identifying, hey, these are going to be all of our issues. And then at least we had time to think about, hey, on average it takes us 60 days to collect what we bill. So if our revenue spikes this much, how much receivables are going to be out there? Hey, we won this job, it starts in 3 months, we need to sit down with the bank today and figure out how today we're ready with a line of credit to cover this project, because it's going to happen. If you do that at the bank, guess what? It's going to be a lot easier to get a line of credit increase or get a line of credit, because they're like, oh, this guy has a budget in his business. He's forecasting revenue. This company is thinking ahead. They're planning. They're running their construction company like the business it is.
Yeah. Well, and especially with things like banking, insurance, bonding, you want to go through the process before you need it, because if you need it and you're in the process, it's going to be too late, because you and I both know it's a very slow process.
Yeah.
And it takes a lot of planning, a lot of work to make it happen.
Yeah.
So if you're planning ahead, you're securing that line of credit, for example, beforehand, before you need it,
Yeah.
you're going to be in a really good spot. But I see people all the time make that mistake of they're reacting, and they're, you said, working on the business, not
Yeah.
in it or for it. And that's a big, it's said all the time, but I see it all the time in this industry. There's so many people that are so far in the weeds on the business because that's how they're built. You know, as long as they're busy, as long as they're out in the field, as long as they're hopping in and out of equipment, they're doing something.
Yeah.
But that hurts the business as well from a leadership standpoint.
Yeah, or they need to recognize, like, that's what I want to do, but I have to let other stuff go and have to hire good people to do it.
Correct.
And trust them, still have systems in place to keep them accountable, but delegate what you're not good at. That's okay.
Or there's a limit to where I can go.
Yeah.
And that's fine too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, there's plenty of people who have an earthwork company who do $1 to $2 million a year, and there's nothing wrong with that.
And they make a lot more money than a lot of the people making 10 to 20.
Yeah, nothing wrong with that.
Yeah.
If that's the life they want, that's fine. But still, even them, they can learn from this, and they can say, man, I can by doing these things, I could take my $1 to $2 million business into a $1 to $2 million business that's more profitable.
Yeah.
With people that are happier. I can go on vacation and not worry. I mean, that's the downside of a really small business, is a lot of times you can't escape it. You are the business. So a lot of these principles will just help in giving a little bit more freedom and liberty, but doesn't mean you have to grow. Like, we're not here saying everybody needs to be bigger, because that's not right for everybody.
And these, I do want to point out too, these principles, they apply on the macro scale as across a business, but these same principles can probably apply to an individual project as well.
Yeah.
As far as projecting revenue of a project.
Correct.
Over a period of time.
Yeah, well, and where this is valuable for like a project manager is if he can show that he's projected what the revenue will be, but he's also looking at a schedule and understands his costs, a cost-loaded schedule. So when you're estimating a project, sometimes what you do as a contractor is you say, hey, how can I move some of this money forward? You load more fee into the front. Mobilization is a perfect scenario where people do this. Anybody who's done that knows that oftentimes there's restrictions on how much you can move forward. But nonetheless, just projecting revenue and understanding your costs allows you to make good business decisions. And that's what we're getting at. I'm not here saying, hey, move all your money forward. I'm just saying, make sure you're thinking about this stuff so you can make a good decision on how much to move forward, so that you don't get hurt because you're losing money on other items, but from a cash standpoint, you're not just hurting at the beginning of the project because you're financing the project.
And this is really important for anybody to understand, because even at the operator level, like if you can help manage the financial side of a business in any way, whether that be more efficient, suggest different ways of doing it, or at the operator level or the foreman level, hey, do we need to be ordering these materials right now, or can we maybe wait? Or there's decisions that you can make along.
That's actually a perfect point there on just materials real quick.
Maybe we don't need this right now.
But that's, especially in pipe, I see this the most. The whole job shows up.
Yeah, it's just full pipe, just sitting there for months.
The whole pipe shows up, all the assemblies, valves, manholes, everything shows up. It's like, I mean, today, because of the current scenario we're in, maybe you need to do that.
Yeah.
But generally speaking, you probably, if you have a good schedule, you probably could wait on some of that and say like, hey, let's only have that show up 2 weeks before we need it.
Yeah.
And what does that do? It helps cash. It reduces theft. It reduces the amount of area you need for your product, so you can now keep it closer to the trench. And if you're at the bottom level and you're thinking about that, that all helps.
It all helps, and you at the top, you're noticing all of that.
Yeah.
So if someone, even a foreman, is helping you cash flow a project more effectively,
Yeah.
that's going to make a huge difference to that foreman, that crew, and how you view that crew and that foreman long term.
Yeah.
And especially if that foreman, wants to work their way up to superintendent, for example, they're going to move up a lot faster because they're really caring for not just the performance of the job, but the financial component of the job. And every job has a financial component.
Yeah. It's perfect.
Yeah.
The only other thing that just came to mind as we're talking about this in regards to revenue is, so you build this revenue model out for the year. You build an overhead percentage, and you say, like, this is what we need to do. You need to be tracking that. Like, are we hitting our revenue goals? Are we not? And if we're not, what's the plan to hit them? And if there isn't a plan that gets you to hit them, remember that overhead structure that you had? Then you have to start saying, what can we do to reduce our overhead, because we're not going to hit our revenue goals. If you wait till the end of the year, you don't have any time to do that.
Correct.
And that's why paying attention to revenue, forecasting it for the year, but monthly, paying attention to it, gives you the ability to react soon, be proactive, not just say, like, oh crap, we're going to lose a lot of money this year. Like, it gives you that opportunity to make changes. And one of the things that often it does is, hey, we know that revenue is going to grow $10 million because of this project this year. We forecasted that. We know we're going to need more people, but also let you look at, hey, do I need more staff in the office to manage that? And usually the office doesn't have to grow as fast, but it does. And if you don't, there's important things. Like, I think a lot of times, we've talked about this before, there's this like office versus field like mentality. Both of them are so important. They both, like, if you don't get enough admins, then things start falling through the cracks that are important.
Yeah.
Maybe as an operator, you don't always understand why they're important, and shame on us for not teaching that, but they are. So it lets you look at, do I need more people in the office to help manage it, in addition to the field? But it also lets you look at, can I drive my overhead down? And this is where I was saying, I think a lot of general contractors or contractors mess this up. They grow and they never drive down overhead percentage. And I think as a business owner, one of your goals should be, we're going to create efficiency. The bigger we get, the lower we want our overhead to be. We want to be more efficient. If you see that you're not, then you need to challenge your whole team of, how do we not add more people and do 10 million more? What systems are inefficient?
Yeah.
What are we doing that's not as efficient as possible? Because that's what we have to do. Like, we have to get more efficient as an industry. We have to automate systems. We have to do a better job of that.
Well, and there's a few major benefits beyond knowing people. What systems do we need? Hey, is our accounting system going to be obsolete if we double our revenue?
Yeah.
Or what equipment are we going to need? Or what's our tax burden potentially going to be?
Yeah.
Let's start talking to the CPA about that now, so that we can more effectively deploy capital throughout this year. Or, you said, if you don't plan effectively, you'll see people looking at, oh shoot, now I need to reduce overhead. What goes first in construction? Well, let's reduce my payroll liability. Let's lay people off. And we've been talking about the biggest issue in the industry, which is people.
Yeah.
So if you manage your business ineffectively, you have to lay people off. That's an enormous hole that is going to take you a long time to dig out of.
Yeah.
And that's just been a common practice that needs to be eliminated, and should be eliminated without a whole lot of issue, with proper planning and projection.
Yeah, for sure. As you're saying that, like, there's just a lot of things going through my head.
Yeah.
And one of the things that comes to mind is that as you're able to look at the revenue and make those forecasts, you're able to really show that you care about your people, which is ultimately, I feel like, the thing I hear the most from foremen and below is, I don't feel like owners care about us. And I don't think that's just this industry, right? I mean, there's all kinds of jokes about the suits, right? Like the suits don't get what we're doing. They don't care about us. Projecting revenue is one way that we can forecast and plan, and then I think better demonstrate our care for our people. We still have to communicate, but now we have the knowledge to be able to do that. And there's not this surprise. Hey, in 3 months from now, we're gonna need more people. So I don't want anyone here to be worried when they see a bunch of job ads coming out. Mm-hmm. I know we're kind of slow right now. Don't think we're getting ready to replace a bunch of people. We have a bunch of job ads out because we're slow right now, but we're getting ready for what's gonna happen in 3 months. Mm-hmm. We need you to be in the office and help us out. We need to start getting ready to train these new people. Or vice versa. Hey, in 3 months, we're seeing we're gonna be low on revenue. Our estimating staff knows that now, and we're doing everything we can to keep that from happening. But if it does, we know we have these projects here in the yard that we need to take care of. And our plan is we'll keep doing the work we have, and we're gonna bring a crew or two into the yard, and we're gonna clean these things up. But we have to do it as efficient as possible. We don't want you coming here just milking the train because you're worried about running out of work. Estimators are doing everything they can. We're gonna get the work. Mm-hmm. But this is gonna happen, and we don't want rumors to be going out. Because it's the same thing that you're saying. You may not even have to lay people off. Just the fact that people have been laid off so many times, when they see work getting slow, they're like, oh, time to find a new place. Yeah. I've been here before. Yeah. They're gonna lay me off, so I might as well get in front of it and go get a new job. Mm-hmm. So forecasting revenue seems like it's just all about numbers, but really it's about providing you as a leader the information you need to show that you care. But you have to communicate it.
I think that's a great place to end this subject on. So projecting revenue, obviously extremely important, and ultimately shows that you care about your people, your business, your customers, everything in your life.